Welcome to Athletes to Entrepreneurs, the Alumni Journey. I'm Rob Finkelstein, founder and CEO of Alumni Direct. We've created a platform to help alumni network and connect through their various affinity groups, whether it be college alumni, business alumni associations, fraternities, sororities, or athletes. We're putting a place where we can put them together and just get a lot of value. And one thing that has become very apparent to me is that there is a major issue today with athletes transitioning out of sports. And we've created this show to teach and inspire athletes that there is life after sports. And today we're really excited to have Gary Rogers on. How you doing today, Gary?
I'm good, Rob. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So Gary is he played college football at Vanderbilt. He went on to have a successful career in the Canadian Football League. And now he's the founder and CEO of Check Your Game. He does some other things too. And we'll definitely hear more about it as we go on. So today's going well for you. It's been a good week.
Yeah, it's great. Everything. I'm down here in Florida like yourself, and blue skies, sun's out, and it's kind of warm. So hopefully others aren't jealous right now.
Yeah, I have that conversation every day. So I always like to ask people, tell me about playing sports growing up. And I mean, kind of growing up into leading into, like, say, high school. How did that, how do you see that shaping you?
Well, when I think about sports as a kid, I love sports. I'm not sure why I love sports so much, but I started playing baseball and I just could not wait to play the games on Saturday morning. And if it was raining or if it was a rain out, oh, it would just devastate me, and I just look forward to playing baseball. And then as you keep on going up to the next level or league in baseball, then coaches, they see some of your skills and then they recruit you for soccer that they're coaching. And then all of a sudden, football kind of gets in the mix. And started with baseball, and then I started playing all sports. But I mean, I love playing anything with a ball, anything like running around, hand-eye coordination. And also what is important is fans, is like great to, people are cheering you on, and you do something, you steal a ball, you get a hit, you throw out a person, you make a tackle, and people are cheering for you and they're encouraging you. And so that encouragement for me and my personality, I'm getting chills kind of, by the way, inside a little. And I'm just thinking that just really makes me like want to do more of that and say, I want to get more cheers.
No, that's great. And I always ask this question. So as a kid, because you played all sports, but did you have a dream of becoming a professional athlete? And if so, what sport?
Yeah, I think it was baseball. I was eventually I started because I'm from Cincinnati. I was number 14, and that was for Pete Rose, who actually lived in the same area as my school district, Indian Hill in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I would see his car around sometimes, or his wife driving it. But number 14, Pete Rose. I wanted to play baseball. I wanted to be a professional baseball player. But yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah, that's it. I always ask that question. Then I turn around on myself and I say, I always want to be a Major League Baseball player as well. Unfortunately, I didn't have the talent. So now I'm doing this. I'm doing podcasts and helping people out. So let's talk a little bit about let's fast forward to college. Being a college athlete at Vanderbilt. One of the things that I like to discuss is, and I don't know how, I mean, I guess any time was a bad time back when you played as well, when I ran cross country and track, but were there things that the school did to kind of have athletes look at that big picture beyond sports?
You know, I know that they were doing some things. So I got there from 89, and then I graduated in 93. So that was a few years ago, 20 something years ago. And so I think they did their best at the time to help the athletes push forward. And it's interesting. I'll just throw out a name. There's this guy, the athletic director from Colorado, which that's in the news because Dion's there. But Rick George, he wasn't the athletic director, but he was. I'm not sure what his title was at Vanderbilt, but he was there my last 2 years. And I just remember Rick connecting us to businesses, as we're graduating. In fact, I even told Rick, I sent him a message saying, "Hey, Rick, I just want to say that I'm sorry because I was supposed to go to I had a interview with one of the companies that you connected me with, and I didn't make it. I ended up going home. But anyway, so the thing is Rick George and Brad Coach Bates was there at Vanderbilt. He was great with the kids. He had a bunch of different roles, but you know what? They were doing what they could do best, to the best of their ability. But it's not just them. I mean, it's the athletes that have to make the decisions to like show up to the interview or go and study or go to school or basically make the choices. And so that was, I would say, there was something missing, there with me. I had some help, but then, there Gary was still, thinking about a bunch of other things that weren't as important as his future. And I didn't do very good with that.
And I would bet that that's probably a lot of athletes are the same. I've talked to people where they say, well, we're so focused as an athlete on the sport that we're not really looking at other areas. And I think that, it comes, whether it starts in high school or younger age with the parents and the coaches or other people, is to mentor and kind of shape these kids. Because, I was talking to one college coach and he tells his team, listen, like a tenth of a percent is going to make it to professional sports. So most are not. So you have to be looking at other things and kind of taking them in. I mean, I know, your time gets consumed with practices and playing and all that, but somehow we need to make more of an impact. And those are some of the things that, we're trying to do at Alumni Direct as well. So talk a little bit about, I think a big thing that comes up with athletes or people in general is networking and connecting. Did you, when you were at Vanderbilt, and maybe if it wasn't at the time, she kind of brought up already the coach making that introduction with business, did you see other athletes trying to network and connect, or even fast forwarding to, when you're playing professionally?
Uh, you know, I remember there were days at Vanderbilt where you could go and see alumni. I don't know if it was after the game, before the game, but I don't know who was networking as much and connecting because I wasn't there,
Right.
So, you talked a little bit earlier about, our focus is on sports. So it's kind of partly true. I was focused on, I mean, I didn't have a choice to be focused on sport
Yeah.
because they got your time. You're
Sure.
getting in shape, lifting weights, watching film. You don't have a choice with that, whether you like it or not. But the problem, I think, for athletes is other things around because you're after you're lifting and you're running and your practice and your school. It's like especially as a young kid, what are your next thoughts? Are you thinking about jobs like 4 years from now, 1 years from now, or are you thinking about going to the party? Are you thinking about, the relationships, the girls out there, the guys for girls out there, are you thinking about, you know, doing that kind of thing? And so I think for a lot of athletes, there's so many distractions. Back then when I was playing, there were distractions, but now even more distractions. And now I know you're going to talk about NIL a little bit, which I don't know a lot of, but I do know when you throw money into the mix, man, talk about some shiny objects out there. There's a lot more shiny objects out there that get your attention. And so all those issues that I had only would be heightened if you throw in money into my wallet.
Yeah, no, I see that. A lot of people talk about, and you did a good segue for me, so we'll talk about NIL. But a lot of these athletes feel like it's great. The ones I've talked to, it's great. It's great for the athletes to get paid, but then they also have concerns that it kind of takes away from that whole team aspect. It's almost like the focus moves away from the sport and the team and the game. So maybe give me your thoughts on that. And again, NIL for people out there, name, image, likeness.
Yeah. So we could talk about this for a long time. I've got some
Sure.
ideas about this, but I do know that when you get to college, you are getting paid. You got a scholarship. You don't need any money. I mean, maybe to pay your cell phone bill, like my parents would have to pay my bill for my long distance, in college, but you're getting your food, you're getting your housing, you're getting, all, electric, water, all that stuff paid for. Now, I know a lot of athletes are coming from some situations where, okay, you've got clothes, you just have some other basics, um, and they may need some money with that. So I get that. But as far as the NIL, I think it's okay. I get it that colleges are making millions and millions of dollars. It's like a company, it's like a business who has grown. You got an individual who starts this business and all of a sudden he's real successful, he or she's real successful, and all of a sudden they got thousands of employees and they're paying them a salary. But I mean, they're getting their salary. We were getting our scholarships. So isn't that good enough? Now, okay. Now let's go back to sports. So my idea, I think what would be better, maybe some stipends, maybe a certain stipend, a certain small stipend across the board to those walk-ons, to those scholarship athletes who may not even see the field, to the scholarship athletes that are the quarterback, the tailback, the star receiver, across the board, it's all the same because you're on a team doing the same thing. But when you start celebrating a certain person, we're going to see it in the news. No doubt about it. There's going to be some problems, and I'm sure there are problems now. Jealousy, comparing, you bring in money to a young kid. I mean, give money to a professional athlete and look at the problems, even in their 20s, 30, whatever, right? So my idea with, if they want to do something, maybe you make it like you do it like a pension. If you do your 4 years, 4 or 5 years, and you graduate, you don't get in trouble with anything during college. You don't get in trouble, like, I don't know, maybe no felonies or something,
Right.
up until you're 62, 65, whatever those ages are, just like a pension, or a 401k. There's money that goes in from for every athlete that the university takes from all that money or from their leagues. And so now when these athletes are certain age and they've met those requirements, they didn't just fail out of school, they didn't get in trouble, they're not in jail or something, right? There's some things. Then they're able to get that pension. I think that would do so much better as opposed to throwing a young kid some money. Man, that money is gone.
Yeah.
That's going to be blown. They're going to be, partying up with it. It's just going to add to more problems, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, we had the conversation, financial literacy, you kind of touched on it there. Just all of a sudden you get a windfall of money. What do you do with it? You got to pay taxes and do different things with it. And that's for any young person, has that challenge and they need to learn that. But I think that there's got to be more education around it, I guess, to make it a better thing. So one thing, we're big on is all about alumni connections. So it's kind of, it's a two-part question, I guess, is one, talking a little bit about when you were at Vanderbilt, and actually this is gonna be good because we'll get a couple different perspectives from you, but when you were at Vanderbilt, were players coming back, alumni coming back and talking to the various players across different sports, and then we'll because it was a while back, just like for me, but we'll fast forward and if you had that, the same question today, like yourself or other alumni coming back. So we'll start with the first one when you were there.
So I saw some alumni coming back. I can remember some guys on the sideline that I played with. And then there was probably other guys that went to Vanderbilt that I didn't know that maybe were around. But the ones I would maybe talk to a little bit were some of my teammates. okay, that's fine. You're on the sideline doing whatever. I remember one guy gave me some kind of advice, football advice, while during the game. Okay, that's fine. But I don't think I don't think I ever got any kind of like for me, if I could go back as a 52-year-old and talk to this guy right here, no, right behind me. If I could talk to the guy right behind me, we would be spending a lot of hours together. In fact, I would even talk to this guy before he got to the middle guy. And we'd be spending some time on the phone. We'd be spending some time in person. And I would share so much information. And it's up to young Gary to do something with it. But the thing is, I could tell him, this is what's going to happen if you do this path. This is what's going to happen if you do this path. There's two paths. And one is the right one and one is the wrong one. And oh my goodness. So anyway, to answer your question, no, I didn't get anybody that filled a space that I really needed as a college athlete. It would be more like the coaches or tutors or people within the athletic department
Right.
that were trying to lead us, but I didn't have any actually athletes.
And how about today? Like, does Vanderbilt reach out to their alumni and trying to get them to come back? And again, I'm not the basic. Hey, the football guys come back for a golf tournament. I mean, more so, do they reach out to the alumni athletes?
I just saw a letter in the mail from the athletic director saying something to me. Okay, that was fine. But I know there's some things on social media that I can see. I haven't, it's in Nashville. I haven't been back to Nashville in a little bit. So maybe I'm not as in tune with
Right.
what's happening. But I would say you could always do better. I would have my ideas. I feel like they could do a little bit better. I think they could do a little bit better instead of just reaching out to athletes asking for money or whatever. You know, they could do some things where, you know what, all those things like advice and wisdom, and I mean, I think that's what you're doing, Rob, with some of the it's network. What is your it's net
Alumni
athletes
Direct, yeah, just like
alumni
yeah.
yeah, Alumni Direct. And that's kind of similar to what I'm doing with Check Your Game. As far as sharing people's stories, adding, them sharing their wisdom, because all these men and women, the ones that you're talking to, the ones that I talk to, we've all gone through life. We've all had a lot of years of going through life, and we're now sharing some information back to those who are now going through a similar space. And so an athlete, a person, whoever can listen to that and take heed and do something about that, say no to this choice, yes to this choice, or whatever, or not, or just do their own thing. But I love to be able to share a story, especially the stories I'm sharing are ones of adversity, because adversity is really what wakes us up, opens up our eyes. And that usually leads us on to a better path. And I love to share those stories of adversity and how people have gone to a better path in order to encourage others. And so we're doing similar things. I'm getting off the subject a little.
Yeah, no worries. It's good. So what I guess that will kind of lead into we talk about athlete transition and the adversity that these athletes, and including yourself, myself in a sense, face. So talk about your transition, because basically there was two for you. So there's one transitioning from college into professional sports, and then the second one transitioning out of professional sports into the everyday life. So tell us about those two journeys for you.
Well, you asked, by the way, before you started recording, did I play in the CFL after college? And I said I had a year off. Well, that year off was a part of my little story, right? So I remember I shared how Rick George set me up with this interview. It was actually with Johnson and Johnson, if you've ever heard of that company. I
Sure.
didn't really think it was a big deal. It's like Johnson and Johnson, that's like whatever, right? I mean, that's so pathetic, by the way, that I didn't go. I went home for about a month. I was hurt. I couldn't run. I was, couldn't do anything. I sprained my ankle, probably playing basketball, and couldn't do anything. Thinking about the next level. But then I realized, you know what? I want to play. And so I drove back to Nashville with $20 and my mom's uh, BP gas card. And I had one heck of a miserable year. It was my worst year probably in my life. Pretty much homeless, had no money, lost that BP card pretty quick. That $20 I had to my name, I mean, that's gone like instantly. And I was trying to work, do some different things. It was a miserable time trying to get back to play football, to work out, get in shape, and work out for the NFL scouts and all that. But anyway, so as far as transition, my transition started there, missing my Johnson and Johnson, then pretty much being homeless and hungry, having a year of just being miserable, trying to get through it. Of course, I worked out for NFL teams, try to squeak in the door, with the ones that were looking at the recent college graduates, which I wasn't. I was a year out, but I ended up having this opportunity to go up into the CFL. Went to a little combine down in Atlanta. And so then, I go and play there. So as far as transitions, do you want me to fast forward the transition after football?
Yeah,
After
transition
football?
after. So you played years in the CFL, and we can hear more about that. But
Yeah.
once you getting out of professional sports, and I guess part of it too is maybe give us a little bit of your mindset as it was getting near the end of your professional career.
Yeah. So I played up there for 6 years, and there was a time when I finally started to put it together. And so thankful that I was still playing, that I was able to put it together while I was playing, because after year two, I just kept on going deeper into Gary became more important than everything else. Thinking about myself, thinking about football, and thinking about making myself happy. I call it temporary happiness. Like there's lots of shiny things out there that don't cut it. It's just like, I would say, I love Chinese food, by the way, but nothing wrong with that. But you eat Chinese food, and aren't you hungry just a little bit later, like an hour or two later? You're like, man, did I even eat a meal? I need another meal. And I feel like that's what happened with me. I was always hungry, always wanting more and more. And so what happened to me around 1990, 94, 95, it was 96, in spring of 96 or winter of 96 to 97, is I just was miserable. And I call it my rock bottom. I've had some other rock bottoms where on the outside, it looked okay. Things were okay. I wasn't homeless or starving at that point, but I was homeless and starving on the inside, which, allowed me to, allowed me to open up my eyes and open up my heart and really look at this game of life. And by the way, that's the time when check your game, really, those words weren't discovered, but they were actually being worked out with me. I hit a rock bottom. I open my eyes. I look around. I'm examining my relationships, getting in shape for football, going out on the weekends, my family, my decisions I'm making, like all the areas of my life I'm examining. And the one big thing that I examine, which I have to share, is my faith. And so, as for myself, I became a Christian when I was young, accepted Jesus in my heart. But that doesn't mean we don't have free will. And I was doing my thing. And so, but it was at that point when I said, God, I'm sorry about this path that I'm doing. I didn't create this whole world. You did. You want me, you've got a better plan. You've got a better plan on how to treat people. You got a better plan on how do I show up late to practice, or am I on time? You've got a better plan. Do I say yes at Johnson and Johnson or just skip it because I'm a little tired because the night before I was partying? You've got a better plan with how I'm, treating my family and the respect I give to other. Like God had the plan. So what I did was I examined all areas of my life. I made changes in all those areas, and so I know I'm going down a certain path, Rob, but bring me back and ask me a question because I'm not sure where I'm going with that. But I would love to kind of finish because
Yeah, I think
that
you're
was,
hitting on just the adversity and just the knowledge, and it's you're basically, it sounds like we're kind of transitioning out of the sport while you're still in the sport, and just realizing the changes that you need to make, which is important because whether you're still playing or you're out, you have to, when you're transitioning out of that sport, it's critical that you get to a place where you're feeling good about yourself, and you're going after the right things, because we know there's a lot of challenges when athletes are done, whether it's mental health or financial literacy and all that. So no, that definitely makes sense. And I guess once, when it came to like the end, like when you knew it was the end, was there a tough transition, or because it sounds like you might have already been going through it?
yeah, okay. I got it now. Okay. So a couple of years, hit that rock bottom, make some changes. And so I just have to share this. And this is my 100% formula. This is a way to, this is what all athletes, this is what all people really in life want. They talk about 100%, 110%, doing your best and all that. What I learned during this time of transition, when I examined my game of life and I decided I need to work on all these things. To the best of my ability, I don't need to be perfect. God didn't want us to be perfect, but He wants us to work it out, especially those areas that are hidden, that are a little, the light's not turned on, no one knows about it. He wants us to work on all those areas. And so when I did work on those areas, what that did was I had a bunch of different choices before I played sport. I enrolled in Dale Carnegie. I had to make my team. I made my team. I then enrolled in Dale Carnegie and kind of graduated at the end of the year. I wanted to buy a house, fix it up, and sell it. I wanted to do something more than just play football. I did that. We sold at the end of the year. I decided I was going to stay away from the bar scene or just not hang out there as much, like not be out till 3 in the morning. I was legal to drink and different things. But with that party thing going on, man, there's nothing but it doesn't lead to good choices, right?
Right.
So I limited myself with that. And then I wanted to treat girls better. And so those are a couple of things I did during the year. And so what happened, getting back to 100%, is it was just a certain play on the field that happened. And what I put a bunch of stuff together in my life, and what happened after I hit my rock bottom, and the changes and putting God first and looking at my life and making different choices here, all came to this one play. And I realized that I was giving my best. I was finally giving my best. And giving your best isn't winning a game. It isn't being the star of the game. It's not the shiny of a house, a car, a money, a promotion, all this stuff. The result of giving your best is His peace that's inside that God promised. He allows you to have that peace. You can't buy that in a bottle. I tried to buy it in a bottle. It didn't work, right? That was like the Chinese food, the temporary happiness, it comes and goes. So I finally discovered what it took to give my best. And so for all these years of playing sports, starting as a little kid, and all that encouragement I was getting from my parents and all these players, and I would get little highs, right? And the highs kept getting more and more. And that's what I was after. I was like after those highs of that win, of that shiny stuff. And that did not do good for me. That did not do good for me. And it's not doing good for others. But what I learned was, okay, it's okay that you get cheered on and encouraged and all that. But what you need to do, what I found was finally, and I'm thankful that I discovered this before I was finished with sport, is that I could go through a life as an athlete and I could finish the game, win or loss, whether I missed a tackle, made a tackle, whether it's MVP or not MVP, whatever it was. I could go through that game and I could hold my head up high. Now, of course, there's way you can always improve. But after that game, I could say, yes, I did my best, because what I decided I was doing was I was not only doing my best in sports, getting in shape, lifting weights, going to practice on time, listening to coaches, following, playing as a team, all that stuff. But I was also doing my best outside of my sport, which was staying away from the bar scene, working on my future, treating people, treating girls better, all that stuff, some of the things that we're all dealing with. And so all those things outside of my sport actually affected my sport, which I now was able to, I call it, I attained peace. I was attaining this 100% formula. And so that was really important. So finishing my 6th year, and I didn't finish on my own. I didn't leave on my own. It wasn't on my own because I got cut, right? And that's like absolutely miserable. That's like, they like, my identity was so wrapped up as an athlete. As like most athletes, that's what happens. You identify as an athlete, right? That's who you are. And I thought to myself, man, I am so embarrassed to go back to Cincinnati, because people were like, why aren't you playing, or what's going on? It's like, oh, I got cut, But I remember, I remember the time on the field. They didn't even tell me. It was last day, practice before our first game, and I was about to go in at outside linebacker, and another player goes in on my position, and I just take a step back. I said, oh, I just saw what happened. I've seen it before. I'm like, I just got cut. They didn't
Wow.
even say anything to me, right? And so finish that practice. And I remember I was walking off the field, and I grabbed the chaplain of our team, and I said to him, I said, you know what? Normally I would just go out and try to like look for something to like cover up all my frustration and sadness and whatever. I go to the bar, right? Go to the bar and party it up and do things like looking for Chinese food in a bunch of places, right? And I know at that point I was 29. I'm like, I knew it didn't work. I knew it was so temporary. And I told him, I said, not doing that. I'm going home. I'm gonna stay at home. Just maybe get some dinner or something. Just stay home. And I changed. So what happened was, during my transition, I had learned probably 3 or 4 years earlier, I had finally learned that, even though I'm sad, even though we can get sad losing a game and missing a tackle, whatever it is. But even in the workplace, all those things could take place. You could like, miss a sale, you're not doing as good at work. You could apply this to all areas of life. Even though, those things happen, you can still have this peace. Because when I was 29, I decided I'm not doing that other stuff. I learned that some years ago. And even though I was sad, I still was like, you know what? I did my best. I was in shape. I made plays. I did all this. I believe I should have been on that team. I was like, but I'm not the coach, right? So inside, my transition was so good. It was like a much smoother transition because I had changed. But now there's some other transitions that are going on. And for me at that age, oh, it was hard. 29 years old, you're looking at all your, especially, some more social media stuff going on and cell phones and all that. And you see all your other teammates are like, oh, they're president of this, they're owning this, they've got their house, they got all these things, right? And you're like 29, only thing I've done is play sports, and haven't really worked too much, other than I couldn't really work. So I was like, man, I don't know what's going on. This is going to be a tough one. And when I look back, man, I got a lot of things to say to Gary, the 29-year-old. I got so much to say to all these different ages. And again, check your game was a part of me. I'm not saying I still had some rocky roads, after 29. But in the last, I would say in the last 5 years since I've been to Florida, it's been a different Gary, much different Gary. I'm on a much different path with a lot of things. And again, I'm fast forwarding a bunch of stuff, but any questions or, question I was asking you, who's going to be watching? And you're talking about this is for athletes, younger athletes to be encouraged by, and maybe there's even some ex-athletes that are 29 or maybe 35 or maybe 40, and they still haven't figured it out. Hey,
No,
listen, just because,
absolutely. Yeah, this is geared towards, not I mean, basically athletes transitioning out of sports, but to your point, they might have transitioned out of sport 5 years ago and they're still struggling. So it's giving them encouragement, and kind of what I took out of our, what you're talking about there is the two biggest things is one, the preparation that you did and the journey you took, and then also giving your best. And I think that's great advice for anybody. It's just do the best you can, and definitely seek out others. I mean, people are willing to help. I mean, there's people out there that want to mentor. There's people out there that want to work together, and that's what we want to encourage that community. In this case of athletes, of helping each other out. So, talk about Check Your Game. It's give us the great things you're doing with that, and this is, I always talk about in the beginning. I give that high level. This is kind of the Gary commercial, so to speak. Talk about some of the things you're doing.
yeah, so it did start back in 1997 after that time of adversity, and I was making some changes on the inside at the end of that season with those changes and the results, by the way, finally had that peace, felt good about myself, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Came up with those words, check your game, at the end of that year, and I realized that, wait a second, check is to examine, your is oneself, and game was also defined as the game of life. And I'm like, wait a second, I did examine my game of life after I hit that rock bottom, and I made changes and the results were amazing. I'm like, it's catchy, and it was my life and how I went through it, and the results were great. So fast forward a bunch of years, made a lot of mistakes and started off with a brand of apparel and doing this and doing that. But today, what we do is I ask others to share stories of overcoming adversity. And I ask people to brag about God through those stories. And so there's lots of stories. We all have stories of overcoming adversity, getting through the losses. And, there's a motivational story. I could give a motivational story to some kids and get them excited. But I find that if I give them a motivational story to get them excited and bring in a faith aspect as to how God wants me to, live and be able to encourage others with the Creator, that is the foundation of what we do. And so I do ask people to share their faith stories, and I take them through a process. They go online, they fill out the form. I do a video interview, kind of like this, what we're doing. And then I take those videos, I do trailers, do little snippets, and I have a little process. And I basically share those stories. You don't have to be an ex-athlete. You can be anybody and everybody. But what I find is that most of the people that want to share those stories are a certain age, 40 to 65, because they've had a lot of experiences and they've had an opportunity to kind of hit some adversities in their life and wanted to change. I can't talk to a young 22-year-old who skipped out on the Johnson & Johnson interview because he's not ready. He hasn't changed. That little guy, Gary, he hasn't changed. He's got a lot more things going on. And eventually Gary's going to figure it out. And then he's going to say, you know what? I was dumb. Let me share how dumb I was so I can encourage others. So when you're in the mix of that storm, whatever, you don't want to share. It's like you got to come out of it. But that's a little bit what we do. Checkyourgame.com. If you click on life stories, you can read other stories. And my site's always getting worked on, like, Rob, it's not easy, one-man show. And as eventually, I've got Bill's Corner, which is my business community. And that community, it'll only be for businesses that are endorsed by others Others have worked with those companies, and integrity is the foundation as to why those businesses are there. It's not about the shiny. It's not about the getting Chinese food, all these places that like, hey, that was great for a year, but my goodness, the guy is like lying to me or whatever. Hey, some integrity, character, hard work, you know. So that will be there. And then the third thing I'm doing, I might as well share, is people will be able to share legacies of those that they've loved. So it's just a place, really, it's just a place to encourage people in the game of life and include God in the mix with the life stories. Now, as far as businesses and legacies, that's not necessarily faith driven, but it's just about people making good choices, saying one thing and doing what they say. So that's a little bit about Check Your Game.
That's great. So it's been a great conversation with you, Gary. We really appreciate it. And, you know, people definitely need to go checkyourgame.com to find us. You can find us at alumnidirect.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram, all those. And also, you know, follow the show, go up to our YouTube channel or go out to, you know, we're podcast on the various networks. And we really, as I said at the beginning, we want to make an impact and help out other athletes in their journey in transitioning out of sports. So thank you, everybody. It's been great.
Thank you, Rob.